Hi, I'm James McGuire, Managing Editor of Datamation, and I'm here at the Digital Identity Summit with Frank Teruel, Chief Financial Officer at ThreatMetrix. Hey Frank, hello to you.
James, it's a pleasure.
So we were talking earlier today, I thought some interesting stuff came out. You told me a couple of amazing factoids, one about developers and cybercrime, another about people checking their bank app. Could you enlighten us about that?
Yeah, so you've heard it here today. Cybercrime is incredibly sophisticated.
Right.
The guys doing it are well-funded, smart,
Getting
and
better all the time.
getting better all the time. And what you have is a lot of parts of the world where they've got labor capacity, former engineers who are showing up for jobs. They are working as if they're in a legitimate company,
Right.
not realizing they're part of a larger scheme. So a lot of this is cobbling together some of these attacks for people that are really kind of innocent and not aware of what's going on.
So really there's a young guy or young woman sitting there coding away
That's it.
and they don't know what they're involved with.
9 to 5 job, they have lunch every day, they bang away at the keyboard, right? They don't realize they're part of a criminal enterprise.
Amazing.
It's really endemic in nation states, right? Somebody will set up a shop, they've got these engineers working something, they don't realize they're part of a larger problem.
It's too bad. Really.
Yeah, it really is.
And the banking app is almost the new social media app, kind of, in terms of checking it.
What's happened is, think about what happens to our cell phones, right? We're going to paperless, we're not using receipts anymore. I want to make sure that someone Venmo me money, that I can check that it's gone in my account.
Right.
So the banks are moving from an old model of logging in once or twice a week on your MacBook or your Internet Explorer through your Mac or your PC,
Right.
to a thing that says, hey, I've got you on my phone. I can check 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a day.
Wow.
And that level of touch point with your consumer is really impressive. So the banks get to touch more of the consumer. They get much more rich data through the app than they do through a regular browser session.
Okay.
So it's kind of a really cool shift, and we're seeing it. Yeah, we saw double-digit growth the last 3 years in mobile traffic year over year. From regular internet traffic to iPhone traffic or Android
Specifically
traffic.
with the banking app?
Especially with banking apps,
Okay.
yeah. Across the entire industry, both e-commerce and financial services, but clearly in financial services it's growing very quickly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you wrote an article for Wired magazine a while back. I thought it was kind of interesting. The title was something like, "Trust is the thing that matters most on the internet, is the currency that matters
That's
the
right.
most on the internet."
Yeah.
And you made an important point, I think, in terms of businesses doing business online, they're selling online, and they're aware of cybercrime, and so they've almost overdone it with the protection.
Right.
And they're turning away some customers,
Yeah.
actually other legit customers.
Yeah, you saw Gartner talk about it today. So
Right.
at the end of the day, you've got this interesting paradigm that you have. On the one hand, the calculus is turn up the screws so tightly that there's no fraud, which makes the IT guys happy.
Right.
On the other hand, you got digital channel owners that go, hey, I need revenue.
Yes.
And so, hey, you guys the screws are way too tight. My customers are abandoning and leaving and going elsewhere. So,
Right.
what's happening in the world is you got to find that balance between, proper security, and do I want to impede revenue, which in the digital world is loss of market share, loss of revenue. It's got really big implications. So,
Right.
what we do as a company is we focus on bringing together this concept of how you interact with the website, who you are and your total identity,
Right.
and how you behave in real time. And that kind of amalgam of behavior, who you are, and interaction provide a level of trust that's really needed to really authenticate in today's world.
It's a question of tuning the filter. I'm
That's
thinking
it.
That's that. You're
Yeah.
going to write the policies,
Yeah.
and the filter's going to change over time.
Yeah.
The filter's going to get more intelligent over
Yeah.
time, in theory.
Yeah, as a business person, think of this conundrum. So on the one hand, 5 or 6% revenue is real money,
Seriously,
right?
right.
Or I can look at it and say, I can save fraud and tighten the screws, and maybe my chargebacks are lower. At the end of the day, revenue always wins,
Right.
And you're chasing that. If you can find a way to grab that revenue, reduce operational costs, that's the other thing, right? No call centers, no step-ups, no very expensive fraud tools. If I have good authentication, global shared intelligence, and digital identities to authenticate people, it mitigates and eliminates that level of spend on those other things that are very expensive.
What about verticals in terms of ThreatMetrix? There's banking, there's
Yeah.
media. How are they growing relative to each other?
We've got solid growth. The company's had double-digit growth year over year, very, very large growth. As you heard today, over 5,000 customers. We're seeing a real shift though, where the financial institutions are coming to bear and saying we got to get our hands around this problem. E-commerce, it is what it is. It's been a very good vertical for us for a long time. Media has been very, very good, both
Right.
protecting content and login access. But the banks are waking up saying, hey, we got to get in this game. Everybody's going to digital.
Right.
We need that information. So we're seeing a really, really big push towards banks.
Were they lagging, you're saying? Or
I think they were a little bit behind the curve. I mean,
Okay.
I think they were, they believed in on-prem solutions versus the cloud. They didn't trust the cloud.
Right. Might have been compliance issues.
Compliance issues,
Right.
very empowered privacy and security folks that were basically saying, no, the risk is too high. But what's happened in the digital world is you can change your bank account a lot easier now than you could before.
Right.
And banks are seeing people that literally, you heard it this morning, are fleeing because they're saying, hey, my bank is not working with me, it's making it too hard,
Right.
and so I'm going to go to a new provider. And that's a real issue for banks as well. To put a finer point on it, we've had almost 100 banking logos between January 1 of 16 and last month that we've closed in that time period across the world that have come to understand the power of global shared intelligence and how to use that to authenticate. So it's been a really, really good sector for us, really good vertical for sure.
All right. That's a lot of good stuff. Is there any final thought you want to make sure you get said today?
I think the reality of what we're talking about today, digital identities, think of it as the currency of trust.
Right.
What's very cool about that is it really allows you to grab that top line revenue, which is important,
Critical.
mitigate your operational costs, because I've got less of an investment in call centers, as I said, and other technologies, and at the same time, reduce fraud rates. And I think that amalgam of who you are, how you behave, right, and how you interact with the website, and understanding that in real time, think of it, unless it takes you to blink, we've provided our customers this information. That's incredibly cool, right? It's really empowering the digital economy. We really are enabling digital commerce in a trustworthy way, which is very, very cool.
Great. Frank, thanks for talking with us
Yeah.
today. And thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you. Appreciate
Frank
it.
Teruel.
James, thank you.